Welcome to our Spanish course for beginners. By the end of this video, you will feel much more confident building sentences to boost your conversational Spanish. This is an interactive course, so remember to pause whenever I ask a question to answer. Don't just listen passively. Let's get into it. The word for it is in Spanish is simply es, spelled E-S. And the word for difficult is difícil, so almost the same, with an accent on the middle I. How would you say it's difficult? Es difícil. To say it isn't, you say no es. How would you say it isn't difficult? No es difícil. The opposite of difficult is easy, fácil. Let's look at the syllables. Fácil, with an accent on the A. So, if easy is fácil, how would you say it is easy? Es fácil. How about it isn't easy? No es fácil. Remember the word for difficult? Difícil. How would you say it isn't difficult? It is easy. No es difícil, es fácil. To express the word impossible, you would say imposible. Let's count the syllables. Imposible. How would you say it's impossible? Es imposible. How about it isn't impossible? No es imposible. And it isn't impossible, it's difficult? No es imposible, es difícil. The word just is solo in Spanish. How would you say it is just difficult? Solo es difícil. What about it isn't impossible, it is just difficult? No es imposible, solo es difícil. To say for me, you say para mí. How would you say it's for me? Es para mí. It's not for me. No es para mí. Do you remember how to say the word impossible? Imposible. It's impossible for me. Es imposible para mí. What about it isn't impossible for me? No es imposible para mí. It isn't impossible for me, just difficult. No es imposible para mí, solo difícil. The word for normally is normalmente. How would you say normally it's just difficult? Normalmente solo es difícil. How would you say normally it isn't difficult? Normalmente no es difícil. Remember impossible? Imposible. Normally it isn't impossible. Normalmente no es imposible. The word for nothing in Spanish is nada. How would you say nothing is impossible? Nada es imposible. Now say nothing is impossible for me. Nada es imposible para mí. Do you remember how to say the word difficult in Spanish? Difícil. Now say it's difficult for me. Es difícil para mí. What about it's just difficult for me? Solo es difícil para mí. How would you say nothing is difficult? Nada es difícil. Do you remember how to say for me? Para mí. How would you say it's difficult for me? Es difícil para mí. And for me, nothing is difficult? Para mí, nada es difícil. The word for easy is fácil. For me, nothing is difficult. It is easy. Para mí, nada es difícil. Es fácil. The word for normally is normalmente. How would you say normally it's impossible? Normalmente es imposible. Normally it's impossible for me. Normalmente es imposible para mí. How do you say the word today? Hoy. Today it's impossible. Hoy es imposible. Today it's impossible for me. Hoy es imposible para mí. If you look up para on an automatic translator, you'll get a list of 10 possible translations. But how do you know what the right one is? That's a non-issue when you're watching videos on FluentU, like this one for example.
Deben conocer, no sería muy vergonzoso para ustedes si no, ¿verdad?
If we click on para on these interactive subtitles, we'll see that here it means for or to, just like we've seen before. We can also see another example of a similar use. Here, para means to as well. We can even look at other meanings of the word, like this one.
Para, ¿estás como para conducir?
If we click on para here, we'll see that it's also a form of the verb to stop. And we can look at yet another Tom Cruise example.
Para, espera un segundo.
What's this tool? It's FluentU, an app for learning Spanish. FluentU has thousands of videos, all of them with professional subtitles, so you can see the correct definitions of words and expressions in those specific contexts. Learn with authentic videos, like movie scenes, clips from TV shows, TED Talks, and music videos. FluentU also creates personalized quizzes and speaking questions to make sure that you remember everything you learn. Try it now for free. Sign up for a 2-week trial using the link in the description below. Plus, FluentU is currently on sale, so right now is the perfect time to check it out. Okay, back to learning. The word for tomorrow is mañana. Let's go over the syllables. Na, with an ñ. How would you say tomorrow it's impossible? Mañana es imposible. And tomorrow it's impossible for me? Mañana es imposible para mí. What about not today, just tomorrow? Hoy no, solo mañana. Remember difficult? Difícil. Tomorrow is difficult. Mañana es difícil. And what about it is just difficult tomorrow? Solo es difícil mañana. To say great in Spanish would be genial. We have al. How would you say it's great? Es genial. What about it's great for me? Es genial para mí. And tomorrow it's great for me? Mañana es genial para mí. Because in Spanish is porque. How would you say because it's great? Porque es genial. Because today is great. Porque hoy es genial. Do you remember the word for normally? Normalmente. How would you say because normally it's great? Porque normalmente es genial. Normally, it's great. Normalmente es genial. Normally, it's great for me. Normalmente es genial para mí. How do you say the word impossible in Spanish? Imposible. And the word difficult? Difícil. How would you say today it's not difficult? Hoy no es difícil. It's not difficult for me. No es difícil para mí. The word for very is muy. How do you say it's very difficult? Es muy difícil. It's very difficult for me. Es muy difícil para mí. Today is very difficult for me. Hoy es muy difícil para mí. Remember the word for just? Solo. How would you say, it's just difficult? Solo es difícil. What about, it's just difficult for me? Solo es difícil para mí. And it's just difficult for me, not impossible? Solo es difícil para mí, no imposible. The word for good is bueno. How would you say, it's good? Es bueno. What about, it's not good? No es bueno. What about the word for very? Muy. Now say, it's very good. Es muy bueno. It's not very good. No es muy bueno. Normally, it's not very good. Normalmente, no es muy bueno. The word for tonight in Spanish is esta noche. How would you say, it's tonight? Es esta noche. How would you say, it's difficult tonight for me? Es difícil esta noche para mí. The word for if is si. How would you say, if it's difficult? Si es difícil. What about, if it's difficult, it's not good? Si es difícil, no es bueno. Do you remember the word for nothing? Nada. If nothing is difficult, si nada es difícil, the opposite of nothing is everything, which is todo in Spanish. How would you say, it is everything? Es todo. What about, everything is easy? Todo es fácil. Everything is easy today. Todo es fácil hoy. And everything is very easy today. Todo es muy fácil hoy. How would you say, it's for me? Es para mí. Now, if you wanted to ask the question, is it for me? Use the intonation of your voice. There is no change in word order in Spanish. How would you say, it's difficult? Es difícil. Now ask, is it difficult? Es difícil? Is it difficult today? Es difícil hoy? How would you say, it's impossible? Es imposible. Now ask, is it impossible? Es imposible? The opposite of impossible is possible, which in Spanish is posible. It is possible. Es posible. It is not possible. No es posible. And what about the question, isn't it impossible? ¿No es imposible? How would you say, it is possible for me? Es posible para mí. And it is possible for me tomorrow? Es posible para mí mañana. The verb to know in Spanish is saber, and the word for everything is todo. How would you say know everything? Saber todo. Now try to say, it's difficult to know everything. Es difícil saber todo. It's difficult for me to know everything. Es difícil para mí saber todo. What about normally, it's difficult for me to know everything? Normalmente es difícil para mí saber todo. To say I want in Spanish, you say quiero. So I want to know, quiero saber. In Spanish, the word for it is lo. So I want to know it would be quiero saberlo. How would you say, I just want to know it? Solo quiero saberlo. And what about because I just want to know it? Porque solo quiero saberlo. Remember the words for if? Si. How would you say, if I want to know it? Si quiero saberlo. Difficult is difícil. How would you say, I want to know if it is difficult? Quiero saber si es difícil. And the question, do I want to know if it's difficult? Quiero saber si es difícil. What about the question, is it difficult? ¿Es difícil? If it is difficult for me. Si es difícil para mí. And what about, I want to know if it is just difficult for me. Quiero saber si solo es difícil para mí. In Spanish, to do is hacer. In Spanish, adding the suffix lo after a verb is equivalent to adding it after a verb in English. To do it, hacerlo. It's difficult to do it. Es difícil hacerlo. Because it's difficult to do it. Porque es difícil hacerlo. And what about because it's difficult to do it, not impossible? Porque es difícil hacerlo, no imposible. Remember I want? Quiero? How would you say, I want to know if it is possible? Quiero saber si es posible. What about I just want to know if it is possible? Solo quiero saber si es posible. How about I just want to know if it is possible to do it? Solo quiero saber si es posible hacerlo. I just want to know if it is possible for me to do it. Solo quiero saber si es posible para mí hacerlo. What about the word important? In Spanish, it's importante. So, important plus an E and different pronunciations. How would you say it's important? Es importante. And what about it's important for me? Es importante para mí. I want to know if it's important for me. Quiero saber si es importante para mí. I want to know it because it's important for me. Quiero saber porque es importante para mí. Remember to do? Hacer. And what about to do it? Hacerlo. It's impossible to do it. Es imposible hacerlo. It's impossible for me to do it. Es imposible para mí hacerlo. It. Lo. Es. Es. It is. Lo es. It is not. No lo es. How about for me it is? Para mí lo es. And because for me it is? Porque para mí lo es. Remember if? Sí. Sí lo es. If it is. We've seen I want before. Quiero. So how would you say, I want to know if it is? Quiero saber si lo es. And I want to know if it is difficult? Quiero saber si es difícil. What about I want to know if it is difficult to do? Quiero saber si es difícil hacerlo. Because is por qué. Because it is, porque lo es. Remember for me, para mí. Because it is for me, porque lo es para mí. And because it's difficult for me, porque es difícil para mí. Remember normally, normalmente. What about normally it is? Normalmente lo es. And for me, normally it is? Para mí, normalmente lo es. Because for me, normally it is. Porque para mí, normalmente lo es. Because for me, normally it is difficult. Porque para mí, normalmente es difícil. Let's see what you've learned. It is. Es. Difficult. Difícil. With an accent on the middle I. For me. Para mí. Normally. Normalmente. It is. Lo es. If. Sí. Very. Muy. Good. Bueno. Possible. Posible. Easy. Fácil. Just. Solo. Tomorrow. Mañana. I want. Quiero. To know. Saber. To do. Hacer. To do it. hacerlo, because, porque. So how would you say, I want to know? Quiero saber. And I want to know if it is. Quiero saber si lo es. I want to know if it is difficult to do. Quiero saber si es difícil hacerlo. What about because for me? Porque para mí. Because for me it is. Porque para mí lo es. Remember difficult? Difícil? How would you say because it is difficult? Porque es difícil. Let's put them all together and say, I want to know if it is difficult to do because for me, normally it is. Quiero saber si es difícil hacerlo porque para mí normalmente lo es. In Spanish, to go out is simply salir. Let's look at the syllables. Salir. Remember how to say I want? Quiero. Quiero estudiar con el PDF gratis. Have you checked out our free PDF? It gives you easy access to all the vocabulary that you have learned today, so you can study it whenever. Get it by clicking in the link on the description below. I want is quiero. So how would you say I want to go out? Quiero salir. We've seen how to say tonight. Esta noche. How would you say I want to go out tonight? Quiero salir esta noche. Remember just, solo? So how would you say I just want to go out tonight? Solo quiero salir esta noche. How about I don't want to go out tonight? No quiero salir esta noche. To express the word but, you would say pero with a soft R sound. Pero. How would you say, but I want to? Pero quiero. How about, but I want to go out? Pero quiero salir. To say with you, you say contigo. How would you say to go out with you? Salir contigo. I want to go out with you. Quiero salir contigo. Do you remember how to say the word tonight? Esta noche. I want to go out with you tonight. Quiero salir contigo esta noche. I wish to in Spanish is deseo. Deseo. I wish to go out tonight. Deseo salir esta noche. What about I just wish to go out tonight? Solo deseo salir esta noche. The word for to be is estar. How would you say I wish to be? Deseo estar. How would you say I wish to be with you? Deseo estar contigo. And what about I wish to be with just you? Deseo estar solo contigo. Remember the word for today? Hoy. How would you say today I want to be with you? Hoy quiero estar contigo. The word for this is esto or esta. Esto is used with male nouns. Esta is used with female nouns. The word for afternoon is tarde, a female noun. How would you say this afternoon? Esta tarde. Now say to go out this afternoon. Salir esta tarde. How would you say it is impossible? Es imposible. How about it is impossible to go out this afternoon? Es imposible salir esta tarde. Do you remember the word for with you in Spanish? Contigo. Now say to go out with you this afternoon. Salir contigo esta tarde. How about I wish to go out with you this afternoon? Deseo salir contigo esta tarde. We use intonation to ask questions in Spanish. So how would you ask, do I wish to go out with you? Deseo salir contigo? Remember how to say normally? Normalmente. Normally I want. Normalmente quiero. How about the word for nothing? Nada. So how would you say, normally I want nothing? Normalmente no quiero nada. Let us know how you're liking this new format in the comments below. The word for but is pero. How would you say, normally I want to, but? Normalmente quiero, pero. What about normally I want to, but not tonight? Normalmente quiero, pero no esta noche. Remember to be, estar. To be with you, estar contigo. I want to be with you. Quiero estar contigo. And what about I just want to be with you? Solo quiero estar contigo. I just want to be with you tomorrow. Solo quiero estar contigo mañana. The word for here in Spanish is simply aquí. Aquí, with an accent on the I. How would you say to be here? Estar aquí. And what about I want to be here? Quiero estar aquí. Remember with you, contigo. I want to be here with you. Quiero estar aquí contigo. But is pero. I want to be with you, but. Quiero estar contigo, pero. Remember impossible, imposible. And it is How would you say, I want to be with you, but it is impossible? Quiero estar contigo, pero es imposible. Here in Spanish is aquí. Aquí. There in Spanish is allí. Allí. How would you say it is there? Es allí. What about I want to be there? Quiero estar allí. And I want to be there, but it's impossible. Quiero estar allí, pero es imposible. In Spanish, I have to is tengo que. I don't have to. No tengo que. Remember do it, hacerlo. How would you say I have to do it? Tengo que hacerlo. What about I have to do it, but I don't want to? Tengo que hacerlo, pero no quiero. How do you say the word everything? Todo. So how would you say I have to do everything? Tengo que hacerlo todo. And I have to do everything tonight? Tengo que hacerlo todo esta noche. I have to do everything tonight, but. Tengo que hacerlo todo esta noche, pero. Remember, it is difficult. Es difícil. And the word for very, muy. How would you say very difficult? Muy difícil. And it is very difficult. Es muy difícil. How about I have to do it, but it's very difficult? Tengo que hacerlo, pero es muy difícil. And I have to do it, but it's very difficult for me. Tengo que hacerlo, pero es muy difícil para mí. What about here? Aquí. Estar aquí. To be here. What about I have to be here? Tengo que estar aquí. The Spanish word for here is aquí, and the word for there is allí. To be there. Estar allí. Remember, I want, quiero. How do you say I wish to? Deseo. I wish to be there. Deseo estar allí. To say I can, say puedo. I can't, no puedo. How would you say I can't be there? No puedo estar allí. I can't be there tonight. No puedo estar allí esta noche. How do you say but? Pero. I can't be there tonight, but. No puedo estar allí esta noche, pero. And I wish it. Lo deseo. How about I can't be there, but I wish it? No puedo estar allí, pero lo deseo. Remember because? ¿Por qué? Because I can't. Porque no puedo. How about tomorrow? Mañana. So how would you say because I can't tomorrow? Porque no puedo mañana. How do you say I want to go out tomorrow? Quiero salir mañana. Remember how to say I have to? Tengo que. How about I have to be? Tengo que estar. I have to be here. Tengo que estar aquí. Tonight is esta noche. So, how would you say I have to be here tonight? Tengo que estar aquí esta noche. If you like this video, you're sure to love this other one where we explain conversational Spanish for beginners with your favorite movies. How do you say I want? Quiero. And I want to go out? Quiero salir. The word for but is pero. So I want to go out, but quiero salir, pero remember how to say have to? Tengo que. And to be? Estar. How about but I have to be? Pero tengo que estar. Here is aquí in Spanish. So, to be here, estar aquí. How would you say I want to go out, but I have to be here? Quiero salir, pero tengo que estar aquí. I want to go out is quiero salir. Remember how to say this afternoon? Esta tarde. So, I want to go out this afternoon would be quiero salir esta tarde. This afternoon is esta tarde. What about tonight? Esta noche. And I want to go out tonight? Quiero salir esta noche. What about I don't want to go out tonight? No quiero salir esta noche. Remember the verb for have to? Tengo que. Another verb that means the same thing is deber. So I must is debo. I must know. Debo saber. What about I must know if? Debo saber si. I must know if it is possible. Debo saber si es posible. The word for or is simply o. So, easy or difficult, fácil o difícil. What about today or tomorrow? Hoy o mañana. Everything or nothing. Todo o nada. Remember I must? Debo. How would you say I must know if? Debo saber si. What about I must know if it is impossible? Debo saber si es imposible. Remember just? Solo. And difficult? Difícil. So how would you say I must know if it is impossible or just difficult? Debo saber si es imposible o solo difícil. How would you say I have to go out? Tengo que salir. I have to go out this afternoon. Tengo que salir esta tarde. What about the verb to be? Estar. And tengo que estar, I have to be. The word for here is aquí. To be here. Estar aquí. So how would you say I have to be here? Tengo que estar aquí. And what about tonight I have to be here? Esta noche tengo que estar aquí. Let's see what you've learned. I want, quiero. I wish to, deseo. I must, debo. To go out, salir. This afternoon, esta tarde. But, pero. I have, tengo. I have to, tengo que. To be, estar. Here, aquí. Tonight, esta noche. So how would you say I want to go out? Quiero salir. And I want to go out this afternoon. Quiero salir esta tarde. I want to go out this afternoon, but Quiero salir esta tarde, pero... What about but I have to? Pero tengo que... But I have to be here. Pero tengo que estar aquí. Remember tonight? Esta noche. How would you say be here tonight? Estar aquí esta noche. Let's put them all together and say, I want to go out this afternoon, but I have to be here tonight. Quiero salir esta tarde, pero tengo que estar aquí esta noche. Let's finish off this study session with a rapid-fire vocab drill. Remember, you can pause the video whenever you want if you need more time to think. How do you say it is? Es. It is not. No lo es. Difficult. Difícil. For me. Para mí. Normally. Normalmente. It is. Lo es. If. Sí. I want. Quiero. To know. Saber. To do. Hacer. To do it. Hacerlo. Because. Porque. To go out. Salir. This afternoon. Esta tarde. But. Pero. I have. Tengo. I have to. Tengo que. I must. Debo. I wish to. Deseo. I wish it. Lo deseo. To be. Estar. Here. Aquí. Tonight. Esta noche. Impossible. Imposible. Nothing. Nada. Today. Hoy. Great. Genial. Very. Muy. Good. Bueno. Everything. Todo. Important. Importante. Possible. Posible. Easy. Fácil. Just. Solo. Tomorrow. Mañana. Or. Oh. Next up, we're taking a look at 10 basic conversations for beginners, so go enjoy that video as you learn more essential Spanish.